Welcome to the AxeCast podcast. Conversations with interesting people from the world of Acadia athletics and more, talking about their lives, successes, and failures. And now let's join hosts Len, Holly, and Eric Cedarberg for the next 15 to 20 minutes as they dive into the life of today's guest.
This week in our AxeCast, from Ancaster, Ontario to Acadia to a great CFL career, we're pleased to welcome CFL great Bob Cameron to our AxeCast. Bob, thanks very much for your time.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Well, we got to go back a few years.
Yeah.
And I mentioned, you know what, in the mid-'70s, it just seemed like there was a steady stream of guys from the Ancaster area. Just talk about how you ended up at Acadia.
You know, it's sort of a long story, but Marv Alamang, who was a legendary player at Acadia and at Ancaster High School, he was the first to come out. I guess that would have been 1973. He came out to Acadia, and he just had a phenomenal career. And Bob Vespeziani actually went to a coaching clinic with my high school coach. And so he said, "You got any good players?" And of course, he said, "Marv is fantastic." Marv went out there and just lit it up. And so he said, "Well, you got any more?" And so then another stream of a bunch of guys and myself and I guess there was about 5 others after that came up from my high school to Acadia.
So take us through your years at Acadia. You were a kicker, you were a quarterback, and of course when we talk about your CFL career, we won't talk about quarterback, but talk about your dual role with the Axeman.
Well, it was, I always say I am one of the luckiest persons alive when it comes to football. And to actually come to Acadia, which was on the cusp of being a fantastic football team. I mean, they were the only, when I came in 74 and 73, Acadia was the only team that beat St. Mary's, who were the national champions that year. So they were a very good football team. And I was extremely fortunate to come to Acadia in 1974. And there were some great football players, obviously, on the team. And I was actually third or fourth string quarterback starting off. And so I didn't think I would be playing much my first year. And this is how, when I'm saying I got lucky, I got very lucky and very bad luck for other people. The starting quarterback broke his ankle in the first exhibition game. And so then the backup quarterback broke his wrist in the same exhibition game. And we're playing against St. Mary's Huskies. And then, so Bob Vespeziani, it's either myself or the other third string quarterback, I guess it was fourth, and he decided to throw me in there. So I went in and honestly, all I can remember is I either handed off the ball or did a bootleg or just threw the ball into the flat. And incredibly, we won the game. We beat St. Mary's Huskies, defending national champions. And I couldn't believe it. And then from there, I got the start for the first league game against, I think it was Dalhousie, and had a pretty good game, but nothing great. And so we were undefeated and going into the second game, and I got mono. And I was out for the whole year. All I could do was punt. They let me punt, but they wouldn't let me play. And then in the championship game, I got to play a bit again, and that was it. And then after that, the second string quarterback took off, and I ended up being the starter in 1975.
It's interesting because your career, you know, we'll talk about this when we get into the CFL, you talk about breaks and things that happen in order for you to get to where you enjoyed a great career will become very prevalent as we continue to talk here. But you mentioned Bob Vespeziani, and you know, just after you left, Acadia enjoyed 2 national championships in 1979 and 1981 under John Heward. But I think you have to roll the clock back and look at the building blocks. Did you guys feel under Vest that you were part of something that was building towards something great?
No question about it. And you know, when I came, there was guys were talking about they played against St. Francis Xavier. I think it was about 1968, and they lost like 80-0. And then the next day they had to do 80 push-ups, 80 sit-ups. And, you know, that's where they started. They started at the bottom of the rung. And Bob Vespeziani, he had an unbelievable personality. Like he could talk you into anything more or less and believe that you're great. And that was really his forte, his ability to get the best out of his players. And I've always said, next to my parents, this guy is the guy I looked up to the most. I mean, he did phenomenal for me. I could never have done better anywhere else. And coming to Acadia and be under Bob, it was just it was fantastic. And even when I went on to the CFL with Winnipeg, he was the special teams coach, if you can believe it. There's another story there after that, but I could never say anything bad about Bob. I mean, he was phenomenal. He really was. And you ask any players that played for him, they'll say the same thing.
You look at the talent that you went there in '74, and I think they had a Hec Crighton winner that year with Al Sharok.
Right.
Later, Stracina, and then yourself. So you got that period from '74.
Crazy.
Unbelievable to have 3 Hec Crighton winners, and those are the only 3 so far in Acadia history.
Yeah, it was, how lucky can you possibly be? Yeah, Al the Chief Sharok in 1974, I remember him. I mean, he was the god of the team. And we would look up, us rookies coming in, we see Al Sharok, and he calls him the chief, and he would go and meditate in a room away from the team before the game. We were all in awe. Wow, he's meditating. Wow, he must be really going to have a hell of a game this time. And he usually did. He was an unbelievable kick returner. We'd throw him in on offense, and you just throw a hitch pass to him, and he'd take it all the way to the house. So it was a phenomenal time. And as again, I just reiterate that the talent we had on that team, we probably should have won some national championships, and we were in 2, and then we were leading at halftime in the one, and then we got blown out in the other. But I mean, to get there from where we came from was pretty amazing.
Bob, you mentioned Vassalli in Winnipeg, and we're going to sort of talk about that a little bit, but take us back to '77, because this is just an incredible roller coaster you're on, because you get drafted by Edmonton,
right?
But you get cut 7 or 8 times. Talk about that period.
It was, it was so tough, to be honest with you. I thought I was a good enough punter. Even when I went to Ottawa, I had a regular shift with Tom Clemens and Conrad Holloway at quarterback. And I even went to an inter-squad game and played an inter-squad game. Everything was rolling for me. I'm thinking, geez, I'm going to be third-string quarterback maybe. And I had a couple of good exhibition games. And I remember the day that the cut down came, in the paper, they announced every guy that was going to make the team, and they said I made the team. I was the only one that didn't. And I remember going into the coach's office when he cut me, and basically begging him. I'm going, you can't be serious. I can only get better. Come on. I mean, I'm a better punter than this guy you're keeping. And he just said one thing to me that really stuck with me. And he said, you know what? The guy's name was Gerald Kunick, the punter that beat me out. And he said, we like Gerald. I'm going, well, you like him? I thought this was pro sport, and only the best guys make it. And so then I just said, if I can ever make it and I keep on the right side of the coaches, then I may last for a few years if I could possibly do that. And that really stuck with me. And I said, you know what? I think I'm good enough. I just have to convince the coach that I'm good enough. And that was the start of the major journey that I went on. Like you're right, from '77 to 1980, I tried out for 8 different professional football teams in Canada and the United States. I tried out for the Buffalo Bills in the NFL. I went tried out for the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll go over. I mean, it was Edmonton Eskimos I was drafted by, Calgary Stampeders, Hamilton Ticats, Toronto Argonauts, every one cut. And you would think at that point, you'd say, well, okay, that's enough. And honestly, it was. And I ended up quitting. After I tried out for Buffalo Bills in 1979, I said, okay, well, that's it. And so I went out to Alberta. My brother was a geologist, and he says, lots of jobs out here, Bob, come on out. So I go out there, and on one of my days off, I'm driving from Red Deer to Calgary to visit my brother. We're going to go skiing. And I hear on the radio that Bernie Rua, punter, field goal kicker for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, just been charged with trafficking of marijuana. And I'm going, oh, this may be my chance, because Bob Vassalli is now the special teams coach in Winnipeg. And not less than a week later, Bob phones me up and he said, hey, do you want to give it another try? And I said, oh yeah, absolutely. And so that was it. I quit my job in the spring in 1980 and drove out to Winnipeg. And, I guess I missed one game. I missed one game the next 20 years. That's all I missed. But in that one game, there's a little story involved there. I got cut after. This is how I worry about coaches. The coach cut me after the pregame meal in Hamilton, my hometown, bought tickets for my parents and everything. This is the 5th game of the year. And Rayok, the head coach, comes out to me and says, yeah, Bob, you're cut. We brought another punter in to play this game. I said, you can't be serious. No. And sure enough, yes. They brought a guy in. He played that game, and he was terrible. Like he had the worst game. It was like I had a voodoo doll sticking in his leg every time he punted. And I'm thinking, okay, for sure, I'm going to get my job back here. But then we go back the next day. I'll go back to Winnipeg, and I'm punting beside this guy, and Ray Ox looking at me and going, "Oh, Gerald, that was a great kick." Same guy. Gerald Koenig beat me out in Ottawa. Now he's beating me out in Winnipeg.
Oh my God!
I'm getting a complex against him. But yeah, it was. And anyways, what I was getting to, I said, well, I'm never going to get back on this team. And I went to Bob Vespasiani, and this is what he said to me. He said, "You know what?" He said, "You have to go in." I said, "I think I'm better than this guy." I said, "You have to go into the coach's office and tell him what you just said to me." And I'm going, how can my confidence be any lower? I got to go into the head coach's office and tell him that? He goes, "Yes." I said, "Okay, here I go." So I went in the coach's office like Bob told me to, and told the coach, I said, "Hey, I don't think the way you're evaluating his practice is right." I said, when I tried out in the NFL, they give us kicks, and they let us, they said, "You got 15 kicks, we're going to chart them. Distance, hang time, time to get them off. And at the end of the week, then we'll see who the best punter is." And he just looked at me and said, "All right, Bob, we'll just do that." And incredibly, I beat him out, and sure enough, I got my job back. But the next day, after we played a game against Edmonton. The next day, they brought another punter in who was in there for a month, and I had to beat him out every day as well. And it just kept going on. And then the next year in 81, their first draft choice was a punter. So it never stopped. So I could go on and on. It's a incredible journey until things turned around for me.
This is great inside stuff that I really never knew about. As a fan, I'm watching it.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And like I say, in 81, they brought this guy in. And I beat him out right away. And so I was thinking, okay, I may do all right. At 82, they put him back in university. They're seasoning him. They bring him back. And so we're playing they cut him. They sent him home. Now we're playing the third exhibition game in Saskatchewan. And the last play of the game, the coach tells me, kick the ball out of bounds. Well, I kicked the ball, but they came with a big punt rush, and I pulled it off the inside of my foot. And the guy catches the ball. We go down and tackle him. There's only one problem. The guy who tackles him is our best cornerback, and he blows out his knee, career-ending injury. And you can just imagine, the coach comes up to me after, "Bob, didn't I tell you to kick that ball out of bounds? Charlie, one of the most important players on our team." And the defensive back coach comes up and starts tearing a strip off me. And I said, "Oh boy, I'm in trouble again." And sure enough, the guy they cut the week before, yeah, he's back in training camp. And then the last exhibition game, we're playing against Edmonton, and the coach doesn't talk to me all week and comes up to me just before the game and says, "Okay, Cameron, you're punting the first half, and this other guy's punting the second half, and this is it." And luckily, I had a really good game, and he didn't, and I got the job. And then that was it. That was 82. Got rid of the coach, Ray Yock, and Kel Murphy came in, and my whole career turned around, and we started winning Grey Cups, and it was unbelievable, the change. And I won a Grey Cup in 84 with Bob Vespasiani, and I cherish that moment. I had a picture with him, and Mark Moores. I played with Mark at Acadia, and Mark played on that team as well, and we had a picture after. Is phenomenal. I still got it as well.
So if I was to go to Webster's dictionary and look up the word perseverance, will I see a picture of Bob Cameron?
I had people telling me, "Bob, just give it up. I mean, you're not going to make it. Like, come on." And so I don't know. I just kept saying, I just think I can do it. I really do. And I just have to get somebody with coach that has some confidence in me. With Bob Vespasiani in my hip pocket, I would never even get a phone call if Bob isn't there. Like I tell you, that's how the stars had to line up for me to ever have played one game in the CFL. If he was not there, I would never have played. And so that's how lucky I was.
So in 1988, you end up being named the MVP of the Grey Cup game. I was at that game in Ottawa.
Yeah.
Windy as hell. I remember that.
It was. Yeah.
But,
I'll tell you, Eric, here was the crazy thing. My first year when we played, first year we played in Saskatchewan, the Labor Day Classic. And I'd never played in wind like that. And my first punt, we were back on our 20-yard line. I punted it, and I tried to draw a rough in the punter call. I went on, flipped over and landed on my back, and I'm looking. I see the ball shanked off the side of my foot. It only goes about 15 yards down the field. and the wind is so strong in my face, it starts bounding backwards. I punted from our 20. It went out of bounds on our 12. I had a -8. And so I said, okay, if I'm ever going to play in Winnipeg, I've got to learn how to punt into the wind. So after that, I said, okay, every day in practice, I'm going to kick every punt I can into the wind. Don't kick any with the wind. With the wind is easy. It's into that wind. I got to figure out how to do this. And so it really helped out, obviously, in that 88 Grey Cup game was windy as hell, and I got lucky. So
3 Grey Cup championships. You're a 6-time CFL All-Star. You're in numerous Hall of Fames, including the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame, the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. And 2019 rolls around, and you're the only member to be inducted into the Winnipeg Blue Bombers Ring of Honor. Just talk about what that meant to you.
Well, that was pretty amazing. You know, with my whole family there, you know, you start out and you see the end. This is sort of the end of the journey. I'm saying, well, there's nowhere else they can put me. And I said, and I've said this many times, no one in the history of football has gotten so many awards that are undeserving. Like, honestly, I just look at it like there's so many guys that should have been up there way before me. And I just, you know, I guess you smooth the right people. I don't know why they did that to me this early, maybe later on. I mean, if you last 23 years on one team, I just never wanted to quit, and they didn't have the heart to tell me to quit, basically. So it was a phenomenal night. My whole family there, like I say, on the field and waving to the fans one last time. I mean, no one has been luckier in their life than I have, you know, from the high school buddies I had all going out to Acadia, and then culminating in that award that night in Winnipeg it's phenomenal. It really
We
is.
talk about all the world events in 2020, and everybody's wishing 2020 away. But at the same time, for you, 2019 was so special, not only for the Ring of Honor, but finally the Winnipeg Blue Bombers win the Grey Cup.
And I was there. I was in Calgary. I went to the game too, and went after and partied with the team. And it was fantastic. I saw Jake Thomas there, fantastic Acadia player, and it was great. It really was. I'm a huge fan. I got season tickets here, and I love seeing that. That's because just to see the faces on those guys, you know, reminds me of back when I played, and we were so fortunate to win those. And it really is make it all worthwhile when you see that.
Jake Thomas, I think, is still the longest serving
yes
Bomber right now. So he's got a long way to go to try to beat your years.
Yeah, he's got a few more years.
I don't know if he's going to be able to do that.
Yeah,
Lyman, but.
And Mike Miller is out here as well,
too,
and he's had a phenomenal career here as well. So, I keep telling them, you just can't have too many Acadia players on your team. That's how you win. Okay, that's what I tell the coaches. So, it was a phenomenal time last year. It really was. I've got twin daughters who are at it, who are both Acadia. They're at Acadia right now. So,
I didn't know that.
Yes,
wow.
Yes, Avery and Ainsley. They're going into the last year coming up.
Well, we'll see how that turns out.
I hope everything. At least they're going out there, and I think it's turning out pretty good at this point, because the virus has been semi-beat at this point, I guess, out in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
Let's hope it keeps up.
Well, before we let you go, Eric's got a few. What are they? Surefire questions. So fire at you here to end this.
Throw these questions at you that maybe don't really relate to football.
And now it's time for Eric's Cut to the Chase 5 questions.
And I usually sometimes give you a heads up, but I didn't in your case.
No,
because I'm gonna make it.
How this goes.
This could lead into a good story. I don't know. What's the most embarrassed you've ever been in your life so far?
Oh, wow. Boy, there's I don't know where to start on that one. That's embarrassed I've ever been. Jeez. You know, I can't think of any right off the top of my head that I go, well, that was really something. I probably have forgotten them as soon as I possibly could. I'll think about that, though. Okay.
Well, what could have been most embarrassing? What was it? Was it the backflip you did when they introduced you for the Ring of Honor?
Oh, yeah. Okay, that was – no, see, I wasn't embarrassed. It was my kids that were embarrassed, because I told them – because I used to do this as I think I took gymnastics at Acadia, like a lab or whatever. And so I sort of got into the gymnastics thing a bit, and I started doing these front levers. And I said to him, and I'd show off to the kids, yeah, watch this. And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to do a front lever on the truck that's going around the stadium. And they said, don't do it, Dad, don't do it. And I said, okay, this could be the most embarrassing. I said, okay, I'm going to do it. And if I fall off, hey, everybody will remember then. If I make it, that's even better. So, yeah.
We're doing pretty good.
It would have been the most embarrassed. And my kids were embarrassed until I pulled it off, and then it was good, yes.
Now, a little gymnastics background from Acadia. Would you have had Frank Martin teaching you that?
Absolutely. Frank was unreal.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He kept trying to get me on the parallel bars to the handstand on the parallel bars. And I kept swinging and swinging. I just couldn't make it all the way to the top. It was just. That
was the one thing, Frank, if he spotted something in you, he'd try to move you up the ladder kind of thing. And so, well, you can try this, bud.
You know what? It was Frank that showed me how to do that. Absolutely. He was a great man.
And you know what, Frank is.
What a good times with him.
Frank still looks the same.
Is that right, hey?
I don't know. It's just, he doesn't age. Frank is, I replaced Frank when Frank retired.
Okay.
Threw me in the mix. And then I've been there ever since. Frank kind of shaped me into Frank Jr. So.
Oh, he's a great guy. He had some great stories. Loved hanging around him.
I'm going to throw one more question at you here. And what 3 words would describe Bob Cameron? If you were to describe yourself.
Wow. I guess throughout my life and even now, when I put my mind to it, I'm very dedicated to achieve. That's it. From my sporting life to my business life here in Winnipeg, to making sure my kids get the best opportunity and to do well in life. I would have to say that would be it. My dedication to my craft and what I'm doing. I try to always. You never want to look back on your life and say, you know what, if I had even tried a little harder or done it a little better, it would have been that much better. But I had never had that attitude. I just said, I've got to do it, and I've got to figure out a way. And again, no one has ever been luckier than me with what I've gotten in life. I've got 4 kids, and my 2 sons are medical doctors, and my 2 daughters are doing extremely well at Acadia University. And they did not follow their dad in that respect. They followed their mom, thank God. I married smart. That's how that worked. Because it wasn't my academic prowess, to say the least. So I'm very proud of them as well.
Well, Bob, we're very proud of you, and your Acadia alumni family are. And to look at your career, coming in here as a 4th-string quarterback, and just looking at what you did at Acadia, what you did in Winnipeg, and then what you've done in life. Congratulations on everything. And something tells me it's not over yet.
Well, thanks, Len. And I hope to get out to Acadia again soon. I don't know. It won't be this fall, I guess. But for sure, I try to get out as many times as I can. And I enjoyed every minute of my career at Acadia, and I enjoy coming back and seeing everyone.
Well, if we get you back here, we'll have a halftime show, and you can show everybody in the stands how to do a backflip.
We'll see on that one. I think the backflips may be done at this point.
Thanks for doing this, Bob. All the best to Winnipeg.
Sure. Okay, thanks, guys.